I'm going to start with the clavicle bone, to the shoulder, to the elbow, and to the wrist, and I'm going to stop there for now. They've now been built along the ground plane, so I need to move the clavicle up in place. I've actually seen a lot of beginner riggers completely leave out the clavicle bone for some reason. But in fact, it's actually impossible to raise your arm like I've shown above your head without it. And it's very necessary to have it there. I have seen rigs, however, where the shoulder bone is just left as a positional change. And for really cartoony characters, that can be dealt with quite easily and gives you a lot of latitude. I find often, though, it's better just to deal with the rotation at the clavicle, and you can still be able to grab this and move it if you wanted with the correct setups. Set your clavicle joint to where your clavicle should be. And then set your shoulder joint to where it should be. Now the problem is we are unable to change the length of the bones currently. I'm going to double click on the root of the arm, and in the bone tools I'm going to turn off freeze length for now. This tool will allow us to be able to stretch the bones while moving them. Looks to me like the shoulder should be about there for this character. This is going to be an IK arm. One thing we want to make sure we do is that we don't change the fact that these two bones are in line when in the front viewport. The elbow only wants to rotate around this axis, so at no time do we ever want to get a position where our arm joint is actually set up like this or this in the character. Simple reason being is the IK solver will only solve around a single IK plane, and we want it to be this plane. If it's set up with a bit of a bend this way, it'll naturally want to bend up a little bit as well. Pull the elbow down into place. Place it approximately where the elbow should be. Then pull the wrist down into place. Get it approximately where it should be. Now, it doesn't matter if your character was designed a little odd and had sort of a bit of a bow in the arm, but still had to bend forward the same. It doesn't really matter where this joint ends up so much on this axis here. It just matters where it is looking down on the top of the arm, that it's going to bend in the correct spot. It does matter, however, where the wrist ends up, because the wrist is going to rotate around 3 axes, and we don't want it actually in a position where it's in the wrong placement and it isn't rotating correctly. If we want to move the wrist up and down to correct it, we really should go back to the elbow and do it. We can deal with the wrist on the other 2 axes without a problem, though. Well, that looks pretty good. We actually still have a bit of a bend in these 2 bones. I'm going to double click on them, pick bone tools, edit bone mode this time, and rotate along the local plane, local X axis of the bone, and twist them so they're directly facing the camera. To be honest, it wouldn't have mattered that much if I left them like this. We could have dealt with it, but you really don't want to. Your rig should be obvious and clean the way it's set up. Because we've stretched the bones to get them into place, you should pick them all now and say reset stretch, and you can actually watch this one, it'll pop the most. And that sets the bones back to their default sort of size and shape. It's best to always do that, so that I don't accidentally grab it, move it, and stretch them some more. I'm going to freeze the length again. It's not necessary, but I have a tendency to do it anyways. The next thing we're going to need